Got it. Okay, we have a quorum, so we're going to skip over item 2, virtual meeting protocol, and go to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4, opening remarks. Mr. Powers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Garish. Good evening, everyone. Great to see you. Obviously, just wanted to, share a few points of interest with everybody. We continue to work with CHA and Bacon Agostini on the completion of the project. Great progress every time we go in there. Definitely things are being taken care of and accomplished. Obviously, we still in some cases run into supply chain issues. So some of the work has been delayed to no fault of anyone's. It really is just we're waiting on a part or waiting on a door and so forth. Some of it, the work right now, we're just waiting to schedule over, say, February vacation. Some of the work that needs to be finished or refinished just to, prevent any disruptions to the building. We have pushed out until February vacation, and then some of the exterior work, obviously, landscaping wise, we pushed out to the spring. But completion is in sight. The one issue that we continue to run into is the lighting situation at the new school. As you've heard us speak about this at prior meetings. For those of you that live in the area or have driven by at night, you wonder why it's lit up. And so we are continuing to work with Systems Contracting, who is the electrical contractor, and their subcontractors. But we've encountered somewhat of a roadblock in terms of response from these subcontractors. We've had several meetings where we've invited them in to provide an update. They're very slow to respond, not always responding with what we're requesting in terms of written reports as far as progress has gone. And even we requested, just tradesmen to be on site, and unfortunately we continue to run into those issues. We have scheduled meetings with the electrical engineer who designed the system to weigh in on what his take is on the system and what potential problems have come up. He does believe the system as designed should not be running into these issues. We're frustrated, and I'm sure I know community members are starting to get frustrated. This project was due to be done back last summer in trying to get this wrapped up. We're 6 months past now. It's unacceptable. And we've communicated that as such. Unfortunately, getting the response that we need has been somewhat challenging.
Okay, so maybe Alyssa can address that in her report.
Absolutely.
Doesn't sound good, but
question.
Yep.
Can I ask a question, John?
Sure.
So in the meantime, with the electrical, who's paying the bill? The contractor?
It's a good question, Mark. So at this point, we've received one bill thus far from National Grid. The district has paid that one bill just because obviously we don't want to run into an issue with power being shut off to the school. We certainly need it, but that is something that we're working out with CHA and Bacon Agostini in terms of going forward. What's going to happen here? How we can't continue to incur these overcharges because power has been on the building 24 hours a day. So that's something that we're flushing out to see, what course of action we can take there and what the best way to go. Again, working with National Grid as well in terms of getting on a billing cycle. That was that first initial bill that we got from them for October through November. And since I know there's another meter reading coming up on February 17th, I believe that's the day. So hopefully we'll have some more accurate information after that date.
There was an article on it was on Twitter on the MASC website about another school district that had a similar issue. I can't remember the town, but I think theirs is resolved at this point. So I don't know if there's any way to be in touch with that district and find out what they did and see if it's something we can, emulate or whatever. But I mean, that bill can't be a small bill. If it's on 24/7, it's got to be huge. And then you get to see the next one and you'll get to see it. And it's just a matter of time before we'll be asked, what are we doing about it?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan, as you know, we've been tracking this since the first bill came in. So Raymond Design and the electrical engineer are looking at this based on what the predicted usages were supposed to be. So it's something that's in the works. It's just not at a resolvable condition right now, because we only have one bill out of the potential 4. So we're working in a bit of a vacuum until Ingrid gets it together.
Thanks, John.
All right, well, maybe Alyssa can recap that under the OPM update.
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we move on to item 5? Approval of previous SBC minutes, January 9th, and then January 12th.
Motion to the SBC meeting the 9th, 2023 and January 12th, 2023.
Can I ask that be separated? I didn't attend one of them, so I need to abstain on the second set. Is that possible?
Sure. So motion to approve the SBC meeting minutes for January 9th, 2023.
I'll second it. Mark.
All right, why don't we take the roll?
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Joe, Joe.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. So that was for the 9th. The other
Yeah.
meeting,
Motion to approve the SBC meeting minutes for January 12th, 2023.
somebody want to second it?
Second.
John,
Yes.
Michael Dolan,
Yes.
Lil,
Did you bring the
Yes.
pennies?
Patrick,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Mark,
Abstain.
Joe,
Yes.
Michael Loesch.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Item 6, OPM update. Turning it over to Alyssa.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'll get through some of the updates and then we can talk about the lighting controls, as that's one of the items on here. We continue to track contract work along with Bacon and RDA. We're tracking our punch list and warranty items. We're going to begin meeting on a weekly basis to close out the rest of those items. Each week we've been going through them briefly, but ahead of February break, when we want to really have subcontractors in there closing out those remaining items, we want to make sure that we have a plan and a schedule for that. We're continuing to track them through Google Forms and allowing teachers and staff to write any deficiencies or observations as they are using the building. So again, during February break, we're hoping that a lot of that final contract work and that punch list work will be completed. So Bacon will be working on a schedule of who will be in the building, and we'll be sharing that with the district. We continue to have some issues with the vehicular gates, so they've been on site trying to address that. It seems to be good right now. We have our long range readers that are able to open up the vehicle gate. So that's going well. We had some minor caulking work in the kindergarten hallway that was addressed. And then one of the biggest items that we've been dealing with is the lighting programming. So as you all know, last month, they were put on notice to complete the work, and it was not completed. There's been several issues with the programming, and I know that Neil Kimball from Reflex is on with us tonight. So I'm hoping that he has a chance to address some of what's been going on. I know that in talking to the techs and having the various meetings we've had this week, it's been explained to us that they believe it's an issue to do with the sensors and what they're calling an environmental condition. And that they've been playing around with the sensitivity of the sensors. Again, we've had GGD come on site, the other engineer of record, and the electrical engineer disagrees with what has been stated. This design has been used in many other buildings, and there have been no issues. So we really need to get to the bottom of what's going to make this work. Just on Friday, we were on site and there were lights in the parking lot on in the middle of the day. So we're being told that programming is done and that there's just some items being wrapped up, but then there are these odd things that are happening that nobody seems to have an explanation for. So again, proactively, we've continued to ask Systems and Cooper Lighting to be on site. We've had them join us intermittently, a few days here, a few days there. We requested many times just to have somebody there on a daily basis until this is solved. And that commitment has not been met and is not able to be met. So the latest news that I've heard is that on Tuesday, the tech will return and try to work through some of these issues with Systems. But again, we are tracking our invoices coming out from National Grid because we had several months of the lights being on 24/7. I know Bacon's been working with Systems to try and get the drivers replaced, which will extend the lighting fixtures life cycle. Because right now with them being on as much as they have been, we're worried about just the longevity of those fixtures. So I know a lot of people have been doing drive-bys and trying to see, are the lights on at night? Are they turning off? So it seems that many of the classrooms are off overnight, and some of the parking lights are off. As far as like the emergency lights they're still on. So there's a lot of issues with the corridor lights staying on. They were able to work through the cafeteria and the gym lights not being on after hours. So there has been progress made, but we're just frustrated with the amount of time that it's taken us to get here. And I'm sure that, Neil Kimball, you're on tonight, so I'm sure that you want to say your piece. But we just really have been asking and begging for just some commitment and when this is going to be over and done with, so that we can get the owner trained so that they know how to use the lighting controls. The lighting program that RDA and GGD have designed has been implemented. So that's really what we're looking for. So I can give you a chance to speak since you're on the call today.
Thanks,
Alyssa.
Alyssa.
Alyssa, excuse me, please. Alyssa, has GGD's memo been circulated as part of the record?
I don't believe GGD's memo was sent to the SBC, but I can go over that
Okay,
right now before.
Again, I want to make sure that the committee is clear that our engineer does not agree with Cooper Lighting's assessment of the problems. So it's very important that the committee know what our position is first before Cooper Lighting gets a chance to speak. That would be my request.
So this memo was sent to the subcontractors and we were expecting a response. I haven't seen anything. I know GGD asked for this to be addressed and said prior to the meeting, because they also don't agree that the lighting is functioning the way it should be.
Alyssa, would you like me to comment on that at this
Yes.
point? Great. Neil Kimball with Reflex Lighting, with the local manufacturer's reps for Cooper Lighting Control Systems, and have been involved with this project over a number of years at this point. So first of all, I acknowledge and recognize the frustration of this committee and all the folks involved, the engineer, the contractors. I heard it in the last meeting I attended. And I understand when you get to this point in construction and things aren't functioning the way they're supposed to, it's a very, very difficult situation, especially if you've got an occupied school. Everybody is well aware of that. And I guess I would say that from my perspective, the feeling that Cooper and or Reflex have not committed to fixing the problem is something I'm very disappointed with, because that's obviously not where we want to be. We're a sales organization, and we are constantly working on implementing systems and getting these things working the way that the end users want them to. Having said all that, we have a very difficult situation in that the techs on site have been going through, and each individual environment that these sensors are in has had to be tweaked in order to get them to operate properly. That's why you're seeing classrooms working correctly now. You're seeing the gymnasium working, you're seeing the cafeteria working. Has been the efforts of the contractor working with the control techs to make sure that the environment is acceptable and that it's working the way it's supposed to. And as they've worked through these situations, they've been able to get the spaces working properly. I don't disagree with GGE's assessment that we have a number of these systems installed just this year, where one of the reasons that the tech times are so challenged is that there's a lot of schools that are starting up with the same system, and those resources are thin. What we have found, the programming, I do believe, is complete from what Cooper is saying. These anomalies are happening as a result of false triggers from the sensors, was what seems to be the consensus. And judging from the spaces that they were able to get operating properly, we believe that that's the case. So as they work through this week, the remaining corridors and areas in the building that are not functioning properly, I hopefully will address the punch list as well. If there's any programming issues, generally a programming issue would be you push a button and something doesn't happen that it's supposed to, or in the case of having a light on during the day that shouldn't be on the site lighting, that's the first that I've heard of that. But those types of things we certainly can work through. But the environmental conditions and the sensor adjustments that are being done, and how close they are together, and all the things that they were talking about, that seems to be a space by space issue that they just have to go through and work with the contractors and fix. They have shown that they've been able to do that. So I guess in that sense, I would say I do believe that this is an environmental condition in terms of the false triggers that are coming from the sensors. But they're working with the contractor. The techs will be out there this week, and I'm hopeful that this will be the end of this discussion. We're already seeing substantial spaces operating the way they're supposed to as they've gone through and fixed all these sensors. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I understand the frustrations are very high. I would ask that we get the opportunity this week with the techs on site to work through these spaces, and let's see at the end of the week if this is not functioning properly. And I certainly can come down, meet with whomever. We can talk about what situations you'd like to in terms of going forward and how that needs to be addressed in terms of warranties, et cetera. But for the time being, the critical thing is to get the space working. The techs are going to be on site this week, and it's our expectation that there'll be substantial progress.
So what about the site lighting that continues to just turn on randomly in the middle of the day?
Well, the site lighting was programmed last week, and at that point in time, the the contractor, I believe the folks from the school indicated that it was working properly at that moment in time. So that's a new condition if it's not operating properly. And we
But
certainly
you
will
see,
address it
our
this week.
frustration is if the lighting program is completing, why are we having so many anomalies?
Well, that lighting program for the site lighting was completed last week. So there shouldn't be any anomalies. And we'll look at it as soon as we get there.
So for this week, what we really were requesting too was documentation and reports of what the technician is doing on site. Because it seems that one day something will be working correctly and then the next day it's malfunctioning or again, turning on in the middle of the day when it's not supposed to. We also got reports that the de-escalation rooms were on 24/7 as well. So, and that's a closed space. Those are tiny rooms with wall padding in them. So there continues to be issues that are arising, even though we're being told that the lighting control programming is complete. So we'd just like to see some documentation and some, I guess, reasons why these things are happening.
Okay. Did you?
And we
was there a
would like
field
you to also
was-
come out.
Sure, happy to do that. Was there a field report that went in last week, Alyssa?
We saw
know that-
one email from systems on the progress of last week. We did not see any reports.
Okay. I will ask for that documentation. I think it's what they're doing right now because in their opinion, the program has been completed is they're doing punch list items and they're trying to fix the false triggers as they go. And it's been slow because you have to mask all the sensors off and you have to do it space by space. So they've been going through and fixing them as they could, working with the contractor. So I think that's what the plan was to continue this week.
Okay.
Gail,
Well,
I have a
we
question.
can have oh, go ahead, John.
Sorry, Alyssa. So let's just take, for example, the exterior lighting. You know how that is controlled? Is there a single photocell on the system?
I
John,
don't
can
know
I
the
speak to
sequence
that?
of operation. Go ahead.
John, Derek and I went through the programming of the site lighting in terms of times on, times off, what the photocells would control, what the time clocks and the programming would control. And when I was there, after we were told it was done, I was there at like midnight to check out the programming. And it was not what we had agreed to. So there's not just a single photocell, John. There's a number of criteria to turn off light systematically to not make it objectionable to the neighbors. There was a request for certain levels of dimming. It was pretty involved and it was pretty clear. And it's been around since June, this programming request. And as of 2 Saturday nights ago, it was not complete and it was not functioning the way it should. So I'm waiting for someone to tell me that it matches the programming schedule we gave them so that I can go check it out again.
I understand.
So-
So let me just qualify why I'm asking, John, because, exterior lightings, other than the dimming part you just mentioned, it's pretty straightforward, right? If it's a time of day function, it should never be on during the day. So,
Which is why we're so frustrated, John,
so Neil, I know, you're here representing the issue, but we can't lump devices and programming into the same sentence because they're different things, right? So that to me seems like could have been solved 6 months ago. Every building has exterior lights that turn on when it's dark and turn off at the end of the day, business day or whatever, and then they, don't come back on till it's dark again. So I just don't understand, someone who knows a little bit about this, how this could be so hard unless there's a problem with either the programming or the components.
So for, again, the programming for the site was addressed last week. Why it wasn't done before that? It's a good question, a reasonable question, but what my understanding was that that programming was done and that, the meeting that I was in, somebody from, I don't know if it was the contractor or the engineer or from the school side, said, yeah, it's functioning the way it's supposed to function. And that was the last information I had on the site. So if you're going back 2 Saturdays ago, it was not programmed properly 2 Saturdays ago.
But we were told it was, sir. That's why. That, and I'm with the architect. So, and believe me, I'm well aware of what's going on there. And we were told it was complete. I spent the evening there watching it turn on and off like it was supposed to, but it didn't do it as it was designed. So I asked again in that meeting we were in, when was that going to be done? And I have yet to hear that it's finished yet. So this is part of the frustration, is that we don't get a clear definition that something is complete so that we can inspect it. So that's when someone tells me it's complete, I will go do what I need to do to inspect it. But when I inspected it after I was told it was complete, it did not function as designed. And that's that simple. So
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I can submit a formal notification of the programming being complete, but I do know the site was just done last week, and it was set on a default program, because a lot of times the paperwork doesn't get done and it just gets defaulted, and then it was fixed last week. I don't know the history behind it, and I'm not going to say that somebody didn't drop the ball. I'm not here to say that. I will say that I was told last week at the meeting that the programming was done and that was functioning. This was by someone outside of Cooper Lighting. I'm not sure who that was.
well,
So it's my expectation that that is complete now.
I am the only person that can determine whether that site lighting is programmed properly, because I'm the one that did it with the superintendent. So, and that superintendent is not available to check it. So I'm the guy. So at this point, it was not a default program. It certainly had components of what our design was, but it certainly did not have all the components. And so it just, this is the frustration, is that we don't get clear answers. I need someone to say it's done, and then I'll check it. And if it's not done, then it'll be a whole different issue. But
So John and Alyssa, and Neil, maybe going forward, you can differentiate programming, device function, and installation, because there's references here to devices being too close to diffusers. So, you could argue that's an installation problem, and that probably is an electrical contractor problem. Programming, I mean, it should be a Cooper item, right? And then obviously if the sensor isn't functioning properly, not because of misinstallation, but just because it's a bad sensor or it wasn't set properly, that's something different. That to me is not programming. So it might be helpful for everybody moving forward if we could try to keep track of that, because then we know who is responsible for correcting it, right? I mean, in the end, the contractor is supposed to deliver an operable system, but it sounds like we're in the weeds to try to referee who's doing what, get the satisfactory completed so they can operate the school the way they intend it to, which is a bad place to be in this late in the process.
this is why we ask for reports, John, to tell us what the tech is doing, so we could differentiate exactly like that. But
Right.
within the absence of that, we on our side of the table have to assume that it's programmed, because no one is making a definitive statement about which is right or which is wrong or what is the issue. So we have to go to the programming and go from there. So when we get clear information, we'll be able to differentiate like that.
Neil, I had another question for you. So is this a web-based system? Is it accessible over the web?
It has capabilities for remote access if it's been approved by the facility and set up. but it's not, there's no web interface per se that you would be able to remotely turn lights on and off, et cetera.
Okay, I know, on other projects that I'm involved with, you have the number one programmer who can VPN into the thing and check over the shoulder of the work that the local tech did if it's a consistent problem, but just thought I'd ask.
And no, that's what happens. The programming's done remotely. And the tech generally is executing the programming on site, or verifying devices, or pairing devices to the system, that type of thing.
Okay, Joe's got his hand up. Joe?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation here. And but unfortunately, I'm become a little bit more confused. So if Neil, if you can explain your role and your responsibilities, that would help me better ascertain my follow-up question.
Sure. So I am the managing principal with Reflex Lighting in Boston, and we're the representatives, local sales representatives for Cooper Lighting, who also has the Cooper Lighting Control Systems under their umbrella. So we are the sales organization for Cooper locally here in Eastern Mass and Rhode Island. So we're responsible for proposing the products to the specifiers, to organizing the submissions, to coordinating the paperwork required for them to get out and do the programming and the startups, helping to translate the sequence of operations, troubleshooting. We're sort of the face to the factory here locally.
Okay, thank you. So with that, then you have the responsibility of making sure that Cooper is following through, correct?
We are representing your interests at the factory, yes.
Okay,
We-
and so
We
given
do not work for them, and they don't work for us per se. It's a business relationship, but we certainly have influence over the execution.
Okay, but with the relationship that you have, there's a guarantee to which that the supplier or Cooper will be following through the requests that we are asking for, correct?
Yes, we have influence over that. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think with the frustration that you can see is that over several months that your responsibility, then oversight, is in part of what our expectation is. And if I can speak as my own self as far as a representative on the committee. So given this steps going forward, that you will give guarantee that the follow through is going to be in a very, very timely manner, into which it's going to be within the week, within the next few weeks, as opposed to just waiting to see what Cooper does.
Well, I am here, and I am anxious to get this resolved to satisfaction of this group. Absolutely, and I will provide whatever communication I can. There are limitations to it. I'm not a tech. I will tell you, I'm not. I have lots of contacts and people that I can muscle at the factory, and we are doing that. I will say that I believe a lot of this started because this whole process was started later than it should have. Now, again, I don't know why that is, but it looks like we started the startup process in October, and to be here now with an October startup is not unusual to have tweaks and things that need to get cleaned up at the end. I'm not making any excuses. I'm not saying the timeline's acceptable or anything like that, but I do believe that, when you start in late in the fall or mid-fall, and you get through the holidays and all this stuff, to be where we are in February is not that unusual. The system has had more problems than you'd expect with what they're calling environmental conditions. So those situations all have to be addressed individually, and that's been a real drain on the time and the tech's time. So normally these things would be programming, punch list items. There would be button stations that need to be replaced or reprogrammed because the teacher wants it to do something different, and those types of things go on for a good amount of time till it's cleaned up the way it needs to be. These systematic kind of lights being on all the time is an unusual circumstance. Now, having said that, the actual programming piece really didn't start until January-ish, when they were able to get in there and load the programs and start the process of getting this thing up to speed. And by then, everybody was already so far behind the eight ball that it just became so apparent during this process where you're working through the programming, you're working through field conditions, all that was very obvious to everybody on this call, as well as neighbors, et cetera, because it was so late in the process.
Okay, and I can understand that to an extent. However, it is something of your responsibility in what you're representing to be able to make sure that we're moving with due diligence as quickly as possible to resolve this. And that's what I firmly believe.
No,
is
I'm happy to stand here and say that I will do everything I possibly can.
Okay.
I'm somewhat late to this party, unfortunately, but I am here, and I'm here because I want to make sure that this is done to your satisfaction.
All right. Thank you.
Just again, I want to make sure the committee hears it from this side of the table. The substantial completion date for this project was August 13th, I believe. So I cannot stress enough that it should have been complete on August 13th. I was not privy to all the reasons why the lighting program was started so late, but we can never lose sight of the fact that it was supposed to be complete in mid-August. So just take that however you need to take that, all the people that are listening. So that the programming started in January, someone missed the boat. So we need to make sure that we keep our eye on that ball.
So Alyssa, what's the next step? What's the next step for the committee at least, but also so the school understands if they don't
Yeah.
already?
Yeah, the next steps are really us waiting for a response to these questions. I know GGD was trying to troubleshoot with Cooper Lighting to figure out what can we do next? Do we need to reduce the sensors? Do we need to replace the sensors? We need answers to these questions first and foremost to move forward. The tech is returning tomorrow to try and continue troubleshooting along with systems. I know one of the issues that they did in the gym was move one of the sensors over a square, and that seemed to alleviate the issue in the gym. So I think right now, from what I can see, they've been experimenting and trying to figure out these items, but we really need kind of a more technical approach to solving this issue, and we can't move forward with all these questions out there about how the system is functioning. Again, with the site lighting, we cannot blame that on an environmental condition. Why are the lights coming on in the middle of the day when we were told that it was all set and it was complete? So we just need commitment and prioritization at this point from Cooper Lighting and Reflex to get to completion. Bacon has already put them on notice. And that was the letter you guys saw last month before the building committee meeting. So at this point, it's not been completed in the 14 days that they had. And we will be going forward with issuing a back charge for the electricity that's been expended, since August. So that's something that we'll be working on, getting the readings and doing actual calculations that are backed by the engineers. But again, all of this extra time and effort that's being put in for this issue, I will stand here and say that GGD is going to want to get paid for doing something like that, and they absolutely should. So it's just items like that that we're tracking right now. And we just need documentation and reports from the technicians that are going to be on site taking care of this, and we'll continue to communicate any updates that are going along with this. But again, we've done everything in our contractual power, and we've been kicking and screaming for weeks now to get this done. And you can see from CHA and RDA and Bacon, there's a lot of frustration with all the effort that we're having to put in and constantly being on top of this situation. We really just want it done, and we want it done right. So that's where we're at right now. And hopefully this week we can see some major progress and some answers to these questions. And then again, I welcome Neil to come out, because you really need to see for yourself what's going on with this situation. Because we also don't want to end up in a news article, and we don't want to end up with a black mark on a great project that's has been going really good and has gone really smooth with everyone that's been involved. And then to have such a big hiccup like this, for seemingly things that are out of CHA and RDA's control, It's really frustrating for everyone, and we just want to see some level of commitment. Especially this week, we would like to see somebody on site every day. And that's what we asked for last week. We understand that there are other projects that are allegedly before us, but we've been waiting over 6 months for this to be done. So we would really like to see this get wrapped up this week.
I have one more question, I guess. And I don't know if it's for Alyssa or Dean and John. So it sounds like the design team and the OPM team is working directly with Cooper. Is that right?
We've been working with Bacon.
Okay, that was where I was going, because, you know, Bacon's under contract to deliver the system under the
Correct.
contract, right? So you would think they would have more leverage than we would. But, okay,
John, as of last week, I asked GGD to become involved. So GGD and Reflex and Cooper are having some discussions. But I'm trying to keep it as minimal as possible so that we don't overstep our bounds. But I felt it was time for David Pereira from GGD to get involved to kind of clear the air and sort what he thought was really going on. And he had a man at the site, one of his lighting experts at the site, one day last week. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. I don't remember which it was, but they were at the site with systems, reviewing what systems had installed, what the programmers were doing. And he produced his memo, and I would expect that during response and over this week, they would be discussing it also. But CHA and RDA are dealing strictly with Bacon.
right, and that sounds good, John. I just wanted to hear that. Let's give it a little more time. Hearing that it was programmed just this January, I mean, I can appreciate what that means to this whole process, whether we like it or not. I mean, these are complex systems. They're way more complex than they used to be 5 years ago. You know what? That's what we bought. That's what we expect to get, a complex operating system that works functionally proper. So, okay, I didn't have any more questions. Does anybody else have any on that item?
John, could I ask a quick question?
Sure, Mark.
I'd personally like to know more in 2 weeks. I don't want to force another meeting or anything, but this situation just can't keep going on like it is. You know, whether it was programmed in January or not, it was said earlier in the meeting that this was supposed to be substantially completed by August 13th. It's February 13th. So I don't want to hear, I'm hoping I'm not going to hear another report next month that says we're still dealing with this, because I think at some point we're going to have to up the ante and, you know, really aggressively go after it. It's whether or not it was done in January, it's now February. It's going to be March before we hear back again. And I don't want to see this in the paper. It's been a good project. Everything's gone smoothly. And, you know, right now with the cost of utilities, the way they are, and everybody paying more for their bills, if the taxpayers in Bridgewater think that their money is being squandered or wasted, I think it's going to become a huge issue PR wise for the school system and for all of us. So I just don't want to wait. If we could get any kind of a report in writing with documentation and stuff, and if we need to have a meeting over it, let's have a meeting over it. I don't want to if we don't have to. I still don't understand why we're still meeting, because this project should have been done a long time ago. And there's, you know, basically supposedly minor things that need to get finished. It just seems like it's an ongoing problem, and it's going to be an ongoing problem. So I'm just telling you what I think.
Sure. So Alyssa, can we ask you to give us a report in 2 weeks? Just, you know, send it to the committee.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? can't see everybody on my screen the way it's set up, so. All right, why don't you continue, Alyssa?
Sure. So we have released the dedication plaque of George Mitchell. So that's being fabricated and is to be installed shortly. So we'll have some photos of that once it's installed. And then we also did a formal training for the stage and gym partitions, and we are continuing to meet weekly until these issues are addressed. So just some updates for you guys. Kindergarten hallway light shades and the cafeteria. Some of the gates at the school. And then again, just that completed rule-on. And then recently we had these end panels for the library bookshelves installed. So as we mentioned, we're continuing to track some of those post-occupancy items. A lot of this work is scheduled to happen over February break. There were a few doors that were delivered and will be installed during the break. Also some broken glass. We're having JJ Curran come back to look at the gym floor refinish. It wasn't exactly up to par as we expected it to be. So they're going to come back, look at that, and potentially put another coat of sealer on the gym floor. But it is usable and safe to be used. It just wasn't the exact quality finish that our team was looking for. And then DePauli will be back to put another sealer of terrazzo in the school. We have the George Mitchell plaque going to be installed in March. And then there were some cafeteria shades that need to be adjusted. Our gas meter is going to be done during April vacation. And then as far as the tab report, that's being finalized and issued. And then with systems, there's a training that needs to happen for the AV system. Of course, we're still tracking lighting controls, and fire alarm device maps need to be finalized and installed. We're still missing a few panel board covers. So those are scheduled to ship in April. And then a few missing light fixtures that are scheduled to ship this month. We spoke about the vehicular guardrails. Those continue to be addressed. There was a wiring issue that has since been fixed. And then now we actually have the remote controls working for those gates. As far as the traffic signals, the pole is shipping the week of the 20th. And then the pavement markings that will be done in the spring with the warmer weather. So just a little bit of the items that we've been tracking. Next couple meetings, hopefully these meetings will just be to update you guys quickly and pay bills in the future. And we're not dealing with lighting controls and other minor issues. Continuing to track the budget, obviously in very good shape at this point. And then just continuing to track our pro pay. So that's my presentation. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Alyssa? All right. So we will move on to item 7, designer update.
Alyssa, do you mind if I share my screen or no? All right. Great. Can you see the change order or the memo we wrote?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just highlighted a few things, Alyssa, so I wouldn't drive everyone crazy going on too much. So as usual, as you know, John is continuing to be out there every week supporting the project. There were a number of change orders, seven items that got cleared up and approved and are recommended for your approval tonight over the past month. It's a fairly small change order. It's number 20. It's about $27,460, including that the total change orders on the job, including the unforeseen site and owner changes, et cetera, is 2.45% of the original contract. So still very, very, positive. The PCO number 113 is an ad of $4,092, and it covers changes to the fire alarm graphic map. And this was requested by the fire department. We owned a certain, when they get to the fire alarm panel by spec, the panel shows certain critical devices, and the fire department felt that it would be much better, especially if there are companies from other towns that are coming into the building, to have all the devices. So this is a $4,000 ad to update the graphic map, and it's hard to say that's not a good idea. At the lay lights, which are those, they're in the corridor of the first floor, those glass skylights. We have acoustic wall panels, those colored wood panels and wood tone panels. They come up from the ground floor. They hit the underside of the rafters for the skylights, I'm going to call them, but they're called lay lights because they're inside. And the space between the bottom of the rafter and the glass might be 10 inches. Where it hits the wall at the high point was just wall color. It wasn't the color of the Rulon panels. So we ended up asking that the wall between the rafters be painted so that it looks like it's part of the lay light. It's like an aluminum color and doesn't look odd with the Rulon panel stopping and then starting again above the skylight. There's an ad of $5,700 to make it so that announcements could be heard in one of the pullout rooms. I think there's only one room when the announcements are given where you couldn't hear the announcement, and that's very important, kind of security issue. In addition, there was a camera at one of the canopies that needed to be relocated so that the people in the school, at the office, could better see, what was going on. So the total of all that was $5,700. The main office, we bought one security system, a computer and a monitor that shows all the cameras, which is totally typical. But the school requested that we had kind of a duplicate system down in the custodian office. So that cost $6,677. And when there is an emergency, there's a pre-recorded message that goes over all the PAs. And there was a request to rewrite one of the messages. So the contractor has to reprogram that and install it. So that was $1,872, but it does precisely what the district would like it to do. And then the stairs that are on the first floor. So you go in the front door, you go through the lobby and you take a right. There's a stair that goes down to the cafeteria, and there's a stair on the other side that goes up to the library area. And we had some gaps between the stairs, stair stringers in the walls where kids were able to get their fingers in there and it's kind of a safety issue, obviously. So we authorized $1,731 for the contractor to go in and cap those, caulk those gaps, so that little fingers can get in there. And then the final one was $1,404, and it covers, again, programming. This is with the security system in the building. We have alarms on every, or sensors on every exterior door, so that if a door is left open, there's a signal up in the main office alerting them that there's an open door. And that's very, very valuable. But we had to program, do some more programming for
That's
that.
the camera. The camera is.
So that's, those 7 items add up to that recommendation of 27,460 to close those up. Alyssa, you and John went through this in detail, and the recommendation from both companies is that it's fair and reasonable.
Yes.
So John, beyond what you've heard about all the stuff on the lighting system, and John Bartecki being out there every week, that's really the gist of our report, that we're trying to clean up some of these outstanding issues, get them paid, and close out the job.
All right.
So I can,
Any questions for Dean?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Are we gonna be seeing any more change orders after this date?
Alyssa and John, I think, are negotiating one more. But Alyssa, what is that, and do you know of any others?
We were negotiating a door motor at the overhead door at the custodian office. But we didn't feel that we could propose that one tonight. As far as other changes, I'm not really privy to additional changes coming, so I'm not going to say that there aren't going to be any. So that's all I have for right now.
Do you know of any, John?
Not that have been discussed, so it just, there's, but again, I'm not always privy to everything that's on the contractor's mind, but I don't know of any, but that doesn't mean there aren't, so.
Yeah, everything we've had in the queue right now, we've reviewed, recommended. So we don't have any potential change orders right now, other than, like we said, the door motor for the custodian. We just felt that number was too high.
Yeah, and that number being too high is all about the electrician, so we need to continue to find a way to make him feel more comfortable with what we're asking him to do there, so that his price isn't so high. So the issue with the door is that the district feels that the door, if it's not electrified, is a safety issue. So we certainly want to deal with that, but we just can't give you the price that we've been given. It just isn't right, and it isn't fair. So we're gonna work on it until we get it right.
I appreciate that. What I'm getting at is we're 6 months after the project completion, and we're still seeing change orders, even if it's 2%. I don't want to keep seeing them. So it's just how I feel. Is it usual and customary that 6 months after a project is over, there's still a lot of change orders in most projects?
It's typical that it's years after.
Years after?
Mhm.
So some of these issues have come up during training and testing, and the reason they're late is because they came up maybe November. So these are not this isn't like the change orders during construction where you're always fine. These are things that are being shook out as the operation of the building. I mean, the fire alarm graphic is a change that goes back to July. We just haven't been able to get the pricing to where we wanted it. Even as much as it was, but we've been arguing about this change for 4 months now. So, and that's why some of them are coming later. We're shaking them out, and there's nothing here that has anything to do with the life safety of the building that anyone's in danger with. So we just we drag them out a little bit to get the best prices we can get. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Questions on this right now. We can ask questions at the end, right? This is just relating to these items.
That's really, well, related to the designer's update. So if it's a question for the designer, fine now, right?
So I got, well, it's either the designer or Alyssa. So earlier we mentioned the gym floor, and that at the last meeting, I think we determined they ran out of products and they're fixing that floor, refinishing it. Why?
I'm having trouble hearing you, Pat. So, well, because it's a little garbled. That's all.
Can you hear me better now or no?
Well, here's the issue. When the floor was first put in, we found that there was foreign material under the finish. At that point, the finish was acceptable. If there was no foreign material under the finish, we would have accepted that finish and it would have been fine. What we asked them to do was come back and screen to get rid of the foreign material and recoat the floor. They came in and they went beyond a screen. And in our opinion, they did not put enough finish back on the floor. So consequently, the floor is clean now. There's no foreign material, but the finish is, in our opinion, a third of what it should be for thickness and longevity. So we rejected it immediately. And Bacon is in the process of bringing the finish rep back to the project, because he's the one that first rejected it and said there was foreign material under it. He needs to come back now and see it in its state and agree with us that it's not the correct finish that we should own by contract. So that's the reason the floor is where it is right now.
And I guess my question was, and I'm glad to hear that, because I think it needs to, if it needs extra coats, we should get that, right? I just where Alyssa said they're coming back to look at it, I want to make sure we get what we're supposed to get. That's all.
RDA will never accept this floor, Pat, the way it is. It is not what it's supposed to be, and we're going to stand tall on that for as long as we have to stand tall on it.
All right, what about the playground and things of that nature? Have O&M documents been provided to facilities yet, so that we can properly maintain those structures and that rubber surface there? I would imagine we'd have to blow that rubber surface off, quite often with blowers to keep the debris out of it. Have those done?
Well, we need to get all of them. Bacon has a considerable amount of this ready to go. We normally try to do it in one shot so that everything is approved all at the same time. But at this point, Alyssa, we may need to work with Bacon to get some of these O&M manuals once the systems are finished, so that we can get the facilities what they need. So this is something.
I think the district has to develop an O&M plan for those structures and that surface. Just you can see the mulch getting in it already. That would have to be blown off, I think, periodically, so that the warranty's good.
We will address it, Pat. We'll make sure that before March 1st, we've got a plan in place to get the district what they need.
And one other observation I was through this weekend, there's a lot of perimeter trash, and it's not like school trash, it's actually construction trash. If you look around the wetland area behind the behind the where the river type thing is there, there's a lot of like sill steel and all that. I mean, they put the fences up. There's still a lot of debris behind the fences.
This has been addressed with the contractor. It has not been completed, and we will make a point of emphasis.
I mean, if you pull on it, I do drop off in the morning, you can see, and most of them are gone, but there's still some, the 4x8 sheets of rigid insulation.
There's no question, and it has been addressed. We'll make it a point of emphasis.
I mean, just so, the whole perimeter, that wetland area, everything, so, all right.
No, we have discussed it with them a number of times. So,
Right.
Melissa, can we make sure that's an item for tomorrow to reinforce this, please?
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions for item 7, designer update? All right, let's move on to item 8, approval of Bacon payment requisition number 25.
Sullivan's not here.
He's there.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Again,
All right, so the payment requisitions in the amount of $302,219. And this was the release of retainage to subcontractors who've completed their work. Again, this is not including systems rec.
any questions on this? Somebody want to make a motion? Can you zoom in, Alyssa, to the amount? Yeah, thank you. You want to make a motion, or Lil?
Approve Bacon's payment requisition number 25. In the amount of $302,219.
Second, this is Harsh.
All right, let's take the roll.
John,
Yes.
Michael Dolan,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Michael Loesch.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Item 9, approval of Bacon change order 21. So Alyssa and Dean presented on that. Are there any questions? All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
To approve Bacon's change order in the amount of $27,160.71.
This is Harsh. Second.
Let's do the roll.
John,
Yes.
Michael Dolan,
Yes. Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Mark,
Abstain.
Joe,
Yes.
Michael Loesch.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. So item 10, approval of cell phone signal booster proposal, vote required. So I'm hoping somebody can just give us a little introduction of, what this is. And this is a proposal. Is it through the contractor or is it direct to the school district?
It's directly through Oakers. I'm not sure if Michael Chance is still on, the district IT manager.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So as you may or may not know, there is little to no cell signal inside the building. This quote includes a repeater, an antenna on the roof, and 42 antennas in the school that would essentially boost the signal from outside the building and provide cell phone service inside the building. Right now, there's 0 bars inside the building. We've had staff members and admin have brought this to my attention, and I did go out and find a company to provide us a quote for this project.
Mr.
We
Garish,
haven't
if I
answered
may,
any
just to
questions.
echo what Mr. Shantz is saying, we have run into a couple of issues already since the start of the school year where the administration have, needed to make a prompt cell phone call from wherever they are in the building, even to law enforcement and fire. And unfortunately, they just haven't been able to connect with them. And so just, the time it's taking to relay those messages back to the main office to then make that phone call, or they may be at, the location of something that's showing trouble on a panel and they're trying to communicate with police or fire from a different end of the building. It's just not something that's currently possible to do. So that's really why we asked Mr. Shantz to look into this. And then just, obviously on a daily basis, just having your normal cell service in the building for staff and administration to be able to use should they need. But really, it's come up a couple times already for Mr. Bray and his administrative team in regards to safety.
Okay, so I know this is a common item that's, feature that's built into facilities, anywhere. You often don't know the coverage until the building's constructed and outfitted with, everything that goes in it, finishes, the furniture, everything. So I personally am not questioning the need for it. I don't know if anybody has any questions or, I have a few more, but I just wanted to open it up. Anybody has any questions about what's being proposed?
John, just a quick question. Well, this looks like it's 104,000.
John, I do have a question.
I think Matt was talking. Matt?
Maybe I have a bad connection. Can you hear me okay or no?
Yeah.
Is this something that ought to go out to bid? We just got one quote. Is this it?
That was going to be one of my questions, so.
I did get another quote from another company, and it was right around the same price. It was actually $2,000 cheaper. The reason why I went with this company is because they provided more antennas in the building and provided 100% building coverage. The other company kind of skimped and they didn't have antennas in the gym or the cafeteria.
And I'm fine with that, just procurement wise. Are we worth over 50,000 or something? Are we required to get 3 bids, competitive bids, or how does that work?
Yeah, Michael, if you don't know, we might kick that to Alyssa. I don't know how this works. Under,
So Ockers is on the state bid list, which is a preferred contractor, and they've got a blanket contract with the state. So technically, you do not need to get multiple quotes. They usually say it's in the best interest to get multiple quotes so you can get the best pricing. And I believe Michael did that because your initial price that you sent me from Betco was $150,000. So this was definitely the most proactive and most responsive bid.
Mike Dolan, you had a question?
I do, John. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. Michael, what,
I'm having a hard time hearing Mike. Is everybody else?
Yeah. I don't know if you can just type it in the chat.
You, yeah. Looks kind of choppy there. Wonder, can you hear us, Mike? Wave if you can hear us.
He's typing it in the chat.
Okay. Bill can interpret his eyes, I
Or
guess.
he could use mine.
so my question, is there any one cell provider that this covers, or is this all cell providers?
We did a site survey, and the survey included the four main carriers: Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and I'm sorry, there's one more that I can't think of right now. But it does cover all carriers. The site survey just included the four main carriers.
Okay, thank you.
So Alyssa, what budget would this, or what line item would this come out of? Is this contingency? Is this FF&E?
Yeah, this would be a contingency draw, but I just want to remind everyone that for our IT budget, we actually stood in budget. So this would be the first contingency item that would be coming out of, for technology wise anyways.
Okay, so the committee relies on administration, right? Who Michael investigated this, knows the needs of the facility and how it's used and what benefit it is. I don't have any more questions about why it's needed. It sounds like it's a competitive pricing within framework of what we're contracting under. So this would not be through Bacon, Alyssa?
This would not be through Bacon.
Okay. So I don't have any more questions on this one item, this part of it. I mean, I guess we assumed we have to vote in order to authorize the funding. But beyond that, I don't have any more questions. Anybody have any questions? All right, I don't see any. So I guess we would entertain a motion to on this item. All right,
So John, can I just ask a quick question?
sure.
So I imagine there's a spec for this somewhere in that, you know, we know exactly what we're getting and it's gonna work, and I just don't want it to not work and then come back to us, so. Has there been engineering done on this? Have they done the engineering? Is there a spec for this? I just want to make sure it works, that's all.
Yeah, Alyssa, maybe you could just scroll through a few of the pages.
Because we don't have to go through the pages, but it just seems like people bid on different things if there were different components and different numbers of antennas. And has anybody else looked at this from RDA or CHA? Do they feel comfortable with it?
I don't have expertise in doing a cell phone signal booster project. But I did look at the other proposal that was given to me. And it seemed to capture similar scope.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, maybe you could just describe a little bit how they arrived at this this
So-
layout. They take, readings. How do they do it? How do they document it?
They do readings. We did do a site survey in the building. And this company specializes in this type of project. They've done other cell phone booster projects in other buildings. So I feel confident that they built it out to cover the entire building. It's kind of a simple system. They repeat or boost the signal from outside, goes into a repeater, and then the antennas are daisy chained throughout the building, amplifying that signal.
How disruptive is it to install now?
We'd probably plan it during April vacation because they do need to run the cable in the ceilings. So it would be a school vacation project.
All right, so is it correct to assume that if we don't take action on it tonight, that you wouldn't make that window?
I would like to schedule it as soon as possible because their cabling crew is booking up fast.
Okay,
John, make the motion to approve this project.
Joe seconds.
all right, any further discussion?
Just a discussion, can we just include the number in that motion, or just an amendment? I can't see the numbers.
$104,619.42.
All right, if there aren't any more questions, we'll take roll.
John,
Yes,
Michael Dolan,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Michael Loesch.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
all right, thank you. Item 11, report of the communication group.
Okay.
Nothing to report this month.
He said no report.
Yeah,
Is that what he said? No report?
yeah,
Okay.
that's what he said.
All right, thanks. Moving on to item 12, the next school building committee meeting is March 13th. Item 13, new business. Is there any new business?
John, our next meeting is in March, but we'll expect that update, a written update in 2 weeks, correct?
Yes. That'll be
This
coming
is
from
gonna-
our office.
Update us either way, right?
Yes.
All right, no more new business. Item 14, public comment. All right. Not seeing any. I want to thank everybody for attending. Next item is adjourn. We just need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. I'm ready.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Michael Loesch.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.